Hello there, people of the internet. I'm out here at the old range and I am doing some ammunition testing. So a little while ago, I ended up making what I was calling the Modernized 7.62 by 54R. And what that is it is pretty much a 7.62 by 54R that uses modern styles of hunting projectiles. Normally with 7.62 by 54R, people just send out like your cheapo full metal jackets, normally steel case rounds. They got a bi-metal jacket. They're oftentimes not very accurate. There's just a lot that plays into 7.62 by 54R on how it's a mass-produced military round, and it's not really focused on performance all that much. So what I'm using today, I have an 1891, but this particular one is a Finnish Mosin Nagant versus a Russian Mosin Nagant. The Finnish Mosins are superbly better than the Russian ones, just because the Russian ones tend to have a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? They did not have very good quality control, especially during wartime production with their Mosin Nagant rifles. And because of that, the bores in the Mosin are oftentimes larger than the projectiles that are going through them. They're normally like a 313 diameter bore, and the projectiles are normally like a 311 diameter projectile. And oftentimes they can be even smaller than that. And that was done so the tolerances with their quality control, they could afford to not do things, they could afford to have really loose tolerances with their ammunition, with their quality control. And that's just standard, stereotypical of wartime production. Getting a bullet that is, 1 or 2 thousandths of an inch, either larger or smaller, in the massive batch of ammunition that these countries were producing in the First and Second World War, not exactly uncommon. So the solution is to make the rifle bore a little bit bigger than what it is that it's probably needing to be. And the Finnish actually chambered their rifles for a far more exact, far more precise .310 diameter bore. And they did that because they used a lot of 308 bullets, and they used a lot of 310 bullets with their 7.62 by 53R. It's pretty much fundamentally identical to 7.62 by 54R, except there was better quality control, better tolerances. They wanted to be able to use captured Russian ammunition. Wow, it is scaldingly hot out here. They wanted to be able to use captured Russian ammunition inside their rifles, but they also wanted to be able to use a lot of 308 projectiles, which they were finding themselves in abundance of. What kind of sentence was that? I gotta go hydrate. They had a lot of 308 projectiles, and they wanted a good way to have a rifle that could accurately utilize both, and they settled on a 310 diameter projectile, other than the Finnish Mosin Nagant 2830, which actually did use a 308 diameter bore, and I think that's the only Finnish Mosin that used that. So I have slug tested this particular rifle. It does have a 310 diameter bore, which is good because a lot of your match grade bullets out there, like your really good quality hunting bullets for the Mosin Nagant and the Lee Enfield and whatnot, those all tend to have a 310 diameter projectile. So I have two different kinds of projectiles out here. I have this is 7.62 by 39 VMAX, and all of these are loaded to the max charge spec. So this bad boy is going to be moving from this full-length Mosin Nagant rifle at probably about 3,200 feet per second with a 123 grain bullet. These bullets measure out at exactly .310 diameter, which is exactly what we want for this particular bore. Now the reason why I chose the Finnish Mosin is because I want to see how accurate these are. These are, I can't remember, they're Hornady SSX bullets. I think they might be SSTs. Hornady's got so many letters for so many names of so many different styles of projectile. What these are 180 grain bullets, and they're 308 diameter, which is again something that the Finnish would regularly use inside their rifle. That 2 thousandths of an inch shouldn't make that much of a difference with accuracy. So I was unable to procure any 310 diameter projectiles that were of this bullet weight. at least with what it is that I was doing. So I went ahead and I loaded up some 308s to fire through this rifle. I suspect that these are going to be significantly accurate, or significantly more accurate, through a Russian or through a Finnish Mosin versus a Russian Mosin, because the Russian Mosin would be like a 313, potentially a 312, but most likely a 313 diameter bore, and that would be a significant difference in bullet size. We're looking 308 to 313, that's 5/1000ths of an inch versus just the 2, and that would probably have a pretty significant impact on accuracy. So first thing we're going to do, I'm going to sit down with this particular rifle, and we're going to fire the AK-47 123 grain 310 diameter VMAX rounds at a paper plate out there. Again, these are max load charge. I want to see just how accurate these are out of this particular rifle. I have other Mosins that I could test, but I think that this one is probably going to be my best bet. At 3,200 feet per second, these are probably going to hit a little high, because I am betting that this rifle's probably zeroed for either 147 or 174 grain projectiles that are traveling much slower, but we are looking to get the maximum amount of performance out of these cartridges. So we're just gonna kind of see what happens here. Gonna sit down at 50 yards, bench rest, see what kind of accuracy we get, and then we're gonna smack this jug of water with either the super fast VMAX rounds, it's probably gonna be the super fast VMAX rounds, or these 308 rounds that are 180 grain, also max charge. So I'm gonna settle in, and we're gonna see what this Mosin Nagant can do. Now I am just gonna do a 3-shot group versus like a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 shot group, just because these are Hornady VMAX rounds, and VMAX is expensive. All right, Hornady VMAX rounds, 123 grain, testing. Firing at a paper plate at 50 yards to see accuracy. Let's see what we get. Oh, goodness. I feel like I pulled that one a little to the left because I underestimated how crappy the Mosin Nagant trigger was. So we might have a flyer on that one. Let me do that again. All right, that shot felt very good. I'm just aiming at the center of that paper. We're going to see where these are hitting. All right, 2 rounds felt super good. One was probably pulled. No signs of bulging. Maybe a little bit on those primers, but man, that's far from bad. I'm going to go grab that plate. We're going to see what it looks like. All right, here's our plate. These 2 rounds were from previous testing that was from another video. So this is the round that I pulled. I said I knew that I pulled it. Second 2 rounds, probably about an inch apart from one another. I was aiming here, and it looks like we hit a little bit low. So we're gonna go ahead and call it about an inch accuracy at 50 yards. So 2 MOA accuracy, because at 100 yards we would have a 2-inch group versus this 1-inch group. That's pretty good for the ammunition that we're using. It's not exactly great. Well, we got to bear in mind that the twist rates of these rifles, these particular ones have like a 1 in 9.5 twist rate, or somewhere around there. They use like a metric system, so it's not quite exactly at a 1 in 9.5 inch twist, but it's close enough. But that favors heavier bullets. And we are shooting like super, super lightweight, super, super fast 7.62 by 39. That is not something that you would normally see fired out of this rifle. So 2 MOA is honestly better than I was expecting, and considering this is a rifle with iron sights, the likelihood of me shooting at anything beyond, say, 200 yards, probably not going to happen. I'm going to grab a new plate, and we're going to fire the, whatever the heck these are, 180 grain SSX, SST, whatever they are. These are 308 diameter projectiles. Let's see what kind of accuracy we get with these. The 123 grain accuracy, I was about expecting this. I want to see if these are decent, the 308 ones. Let's see what happens with these. I gotta say, with how fast those lightweight bullets were moving, I adjust my camera here. With how fast those lightweight bullets were moving, I'm amazed that they were hitting low versus hitting high. Bullets are weird, dude. You gotta just kind of see where your particular load is hitting with your particular rifle. Let me just confirm that these are in fact the right ones, because the bullets look so gosh darn identical. Yes. Yeah, these are the longer ones. So 180 grain, 308 rounds, 40, whatever their red tip special is for it. Firing it through the Mosin Nagant, but the finished Mosin Nagant with a 310 diameter bore. Let's see what kind of accuracy we get from this. I bet the accuracy is not going to be as bad as a lot of people like to say whenever you're firing undersized projectiles. The amount of people I hear complain about undersized projectiles and how they lose so much of their accuracy, those tend to be the kinds of people who just can't really shoot all that well. Because 4 to 5 thousandths of an inch, that's about where you start to see real loss of accuracy. But dude, 2 thousandths of an inch, I don't think that we're going to see anything. Like, that's within the standard deviations of what you would see with wartime production ammunition anyway. So I'm still expecting us to get some fairly decent accuracy, and I'm expecting this to recoil like a son of a gun. Those 123 grains weren't that bad, but these are 180 grains with max charges. Let's see what we got. All right, firing. Oh my God. That's holy crap levels of recoil. All right, no bulging on the primer or anything. That's good. Whew. All right, firing. All right, let's send one more and then never shoot these again. That one, it felt like I pulled it a little bit. Not gonna lie, these suck to shoot. Let me go grab that plate. All right, dude, that sucked, but the accuracy is pretty good. We got 1, 2, 3. This is probably the round that I felt myself pull. I'm betting if I didn't pull that round, we'd probably have it somewhere in here. So the accuracy on these is pretty gosh darn good, even if we do just take into consideration the group size that we got here. That's still about an inch, maybe an inch and a quarter. So you're still looking at about 2 MOA with these smaller diameter projectiles. That's doable. That's something that I can handle. But oh my goodness, the recoil on this bad boy. That's with a heavy Mosin too. I can't imagine sending these through like one of your short Mosin Nagant carbines. Now these bullets are heavier, so they're probably stabilizing a little bit better with our 1 in 9.5 inch twist rate. It may even be a 1 in 10 twist rate. Can't quite remember, but that's not enough of a difference to make a difference. So that's really cool, man. I am glad that we got the accuracy that we did. All right, I got a water jug here. Now I have to make the decision as to whether or not we're gonna hit it with a heavy 180 grain bullet or a super fast moving 123 grain bullet. I feel like the super fast moving 123 grain bullet would be more interesting to see because you don't see those shot very often. Like, you can look up online and probably find people shooting water jugs with 180 grain bullets. So let's do the VMAX round. All right, water jug test. Hornady VMAX 123 grain bullet from a full-length Mosin Nagant rifle. This bad boy's moving at about 3,200 feet per second, according to the load data. So let me sit down. These are max charged rounds. We're gonna see what it does to a water jug at, I don't know, 10 yards or so, give or take, just for fun. It might be a little further than 10 yards, but whatever. It's far enough away to be out of the splash zone, but close enough for me to guarantee a hit. All right, let's set it here. Firing. Oh my God! Oh my God! Dude, that was awesome! Oh, I'm so glad that we hit that with a VMAX round. That was incredible. That was incredible, dude. All right, well, there we go. There is my modernized 7.62 x 54R, and it's modernized by running through a finished Mosin Nagant with a proper, crisp, clean barrel. You want to make sure that your not firing it through a rotted out old school Russian barrel with, you know, unknown tolerances. So I think that the finished Mosin is probably going to be the best modernized Mosin platform to run this ammunition with. If I were to, like, if I could make a custom barrel, I would probably run a 1 in 12 twist just to get a little bit better accuracy from these lighter weight bullets. But the we're just going to call it 1 in 10. The 1 in 10 twist barrel that this Mosin probably has seems to be pretty gosh darn good. This rifle is probably just a 2 MOA rifle. I mean, it's a 100-year-old military surplus gun. So the fact that it's still retaining 2 MOA is pretty impressive. And these rounds that we're firing are also pretty impressive. So this is our modernized 7.62 x 54R. We saw it group. Both of these seem to be about 2 MOA in terms of their group size, but boy, do they have enough power to do whatever it is that you might need a rifle to be able to do. As a matter of fact, that was way more. That was way more than I was expecting. I'm so glad I hit it with a VMAX round. Thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. It's a wasp right there. Oh, I almost had it. It was sitting on its surface. But then it started flying, so there's probably a wasp nest inside this thing. That's fine. I'm not going to bother them. Hopefully they don't bother me. God, that makes my skin crawl. I hate wasps. I hate them so much. I'll see you guys later. I'm going to grab another rifle. Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garrett. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.